Welcome, welcome, welcome in, everyone. Welcome to Care Concierge with Care Patrol, where education is the heart of everything we do. I'm sure as you were walking to work this morning, you realized what a beautiful day today the Lord has made, and we appreciate you sharing it or a little part of it with us. If you're new to Care Concierge and Care Patrol, we are like a real estate agent for assisted living and memory care communities. We work with families and clients and potential residents at no charge to them, sharing options and cost. We set tours and go on tours with our clients and provide them with information and access to resources that they might not otherwise have. And that's how we work. And we so very much appreciate you referring your clients and friends and family members to us. It's your referrals that keep us active and able to continue to help others and to provide this service to you, which also is at no charge, our contact hours. Today's contact hour, and hello, everyone. Thank you for saying hello to me. I appreciate that. And I appreciate all of you that reach out through the chat room. We encourage discussion in our contact hours and want you to add your voice or thoughts to mine. In fact, it's your outcomes and observations that make this contact hour and training all that much more powerful for the other listeners on the line, is having your comments added to mine. We are accredited by the Alabama Boards of Nursing and of Social Work to provide 1.0 contact hour for today's training. This is considered a live hour because we use a password protected evaluation that enables us to submit to the Alabama Board of Social Work that this hour is equivalent to a classroom hour, a live hour, a face-to-face hour. Everyone who does an evaluation will receive a certificate, and you must do the evaluation to receive the certificate. The evaluation is password protected. We give the password out at the end. Everyone who does the evaluation will receive a certificate either late this evening or early tomorrow morning. And nurses who are on the line will be posting your hours for you, which is what the ABN asked us to do. Social workers, you still have the ability to post your own. Thank you, Ms. Smith, for that comment. And thank you all for being here. Our topic is, I think I mentioned, occupational burnout. This is something that was asked for by one of our former attendees. And you'll notice in our evaluation, we do ask you for your ideas about what to present next. We want to make sure that these teachings and trainings are actionable for you and useful for you, and would love your feedback on what we should do next, and your feedback in general. And certainly if you want to present with us, we welcome that. We've had many attendees from our past who've volunteered to present and have done an excellent job, and we so appreciate them. And we appreciate you for being here and adding your comments to mine. Let's get started with our topic. Our topic again is occupational burnout, and we have three objectives for this. Our first objective is to discuss the effects of burnout on the healthcare industry, and we'll touch on that. Our second objective is to list the symptoms and risk factors and causes that are related to burnout so that you can be looking for these in your own work. And we'll share a tool to measure burnout and later describe ways to counteract it. So we hope we meet these objectives, and you'll be polled and asked if in fact we have, and we appreciate your honest feedback. It's your feedback that enables us to get better. I'll ask y'all, and I'll ask you to join back in the chat room and just give me a simple sense of whether you are familiar with what occupational burnout is. What is occupational burnout? Does anyone have a fast definition you can place in the chat room? And certainly anyone that wants to add your voice to mine, just raise your hand and I'll unmute your mic. If you're not familiar with that, or familiar with Zoom, move your cursor to the top of your screen. A black bar should appear with various options, including the chat room. If that doesn't happen, move your cursor down to the bottom of the screen for the same opportunity. And our definitions, Ms. Tony says being burned out due to the work that you do, which is all true. And Ms. Hurd says loss of enthusiasm with my work. Ms. Kuhn says lacking fulfillment or enjoyment in your work. These are all correct. Thank you for adding your thoughts to mine. In October of 2022, the U.S. Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy, released that office's first ever Surgeon General's framework for workplace mental health and well-being. And it confirmed that psychological well-being is a very high priority for workers. Specifically, 92% of workers said that it is very or somewhat important to them to work for an organization that values their emotional and psychological well-being. 92% said it is very or somewhat important to work for an organization that provides support for employee mental health. So those are high percentages. 95% said it is very or somewhat important to feel respected at work. That's not surprising. And 95% also said it is very or somewhat important to them to work for an organization that respects the boundaries between work and non-work time. And I wonder how each of you would fall in this survey. I expect you would be with the majority. In workplace stress, 77% of workers reported experiencing work-related stress in the last month. Ms. Calder says occupational burnout can be caused chronic workplace stress. Healthcare workers experience burnout during the pandemic. Ms. Calder, you should be teaching this course. You've nailed it. 57% of folks polled indicated experiencing negative impacts in their lives because of work-related stress that is associated oftentimes with workplace burnout, such as, and these are the elements of workplace burnout, emotional exhaustion, not feeling motivated to do one's very best, a desire to keep to oneself while at work or even away from work, a desire to quit. That's 23% of folks surveyed had a desire to quit. Lower productivity, irritability or anger with coworkers and with customers and clients, patients that you're seeing, or feelings of being ineffective. 57% of folks surveyed saying they've had these feelings. Now, psychological science informed the work of Dr. Vivek Murthy and informed the conceptual framework for the Surgeon General's framework for workplace mental health and well-being. These are the elements that they decided in the workplace mental health and well-being framework were important to workers. One being protection from harm. This would include both security and safety while at work, connection and community, including social support and belonging. How many of you have a sense that you don't belong at work? You don't connect with your coworkers. You feel lonely at work. Work-life harmony is important to workplace mental health. including having both autonomy and flexibility. Miss Ingram, I'm sorry you feel that way. Mattering at work, including having dignity and meaning in the work that you do, which we all know that having meaning in our work is what gives us the sense of being whole and the sense of being productive and the sense of being vital to those around us. And then opportunity for growth, including both learning on the job and being rewarded for your accomplishments. These are all important according to the Surgeon General's Workplace Mental Health and Well-Being Framework. So I'll ask you then, now that we've touched on, and you all did a wonderful job at your definitions, now that we've touched on what is occupational burnout, do you know what are the effects of burnout on healthcare workers? And these are fairly broad reaching. And one of you hit on it. I can't remember now. The post has moved on up my chain. I can't see it. But one of you stated that feeling burned out due to COVID was part of it. Ms. Hurd says being a solo practitioner makes it hard to find community with others in the field. Ms. Brown says huge turnover. Ms. Tony says lack of job productivity, health issues, having to take time off, lack of connection. And these are all true. You've all hit this. Medical issues. Thank you, Ms. Siggers. Good to see you today. These are all the effects of burnout on healthcare workers. You're absolutely right on that. Dr. Deborah Ori, who's the Chief Medical Officer for the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, highlighted this growing threat to those of you and working in healthcare. Burnout among these workers has reached crisis levels, she said, noting that COVID-19 had intensified the longstanding challenges within the healthcare workforce. Fatigue, depression, anxiety, substance use disorders, and suicidal thoughts are on the rise in the United States, according to the Centers for Disease Control. Nearly half of healthcare workers surveyed said they were somewhat or very likely to look for new work. Nearly half. Look around you at work. Nearly half are somewhat or very likely to look for new work. In 2021, the American Association of Critical Care Nurses found in a survey that 67% of nurses plan to leave their current position within the next 3 years. So by this year, conceivably, 67% of our nurses plan to leave. And 1/3 of healthcare professionals say that their level of burnout this year in 2024 is worse than in 2023. So this is a growing problem, one that has not subsided with the end of the pandemic, but one that continues to affect healthcare. Now, occupational burnout has a profound effect on our entire healthcare system, including poor outcomes for patient care. We see that we have decreased time spent between patients and providers because of the overwhelming mass of people entering the healthcare system. We see increased medical errors and hospital-acquired infections, and we see more staffing shortages, as someone pointed out earlier. Workplace burnout also increases the risk, and y'all get this, increases the risk for heart disease, type 2 diabetes, fertility issues, and other mental and emotional disruptions. So workplace burnout has a physical and medical effect on our bodies. And it also would include moral distress or moral injury, which is the profound guilt that you might feel when you're making challenging healthcare decisions for those around you. We've discussed moral distress and moral injury in a former contact hour. And for those of you needing contact hours that are recorded, we have about 110 on YouTube. If you go to YouTube and search Sean Barnes Care Patrol, you can find my channel, and on that is about 110 CEUs, including moral injury, that you can take for credit, complete the evaluation, and I'll email you your certificate. So know that we bring you not only live opportunities such as today, but recorded opportunities for contact hours. And again, we do all of this at no charge, just like the services we offer our clients needing assisted living or sitters in the home. Now, I think all of us would agree that high quality healthcare starts with a well-trained and adequately supplied and well-distributed healthcare workforce. Thank you, Ms. Calder, for your comment. The healthcare industry employed 16.3 million people in 2022. That's the largest employment sector in the United States, and it comprises a wide range of people with varying degrees of education and skill and training. In 2021, the United States spent $12,914 per person on health care. That's 18% of the United States gross domestic product. The healthcare spending in our country is higher than any other major economy, both in the dollar terms at $12,914 per person, and also relative to the gross domestic product at 18%. Healthcare spending in the U.S. is higher than in any other major economy. There are over 4 million registered nurses or licensed practical nurses or advanced practice nurses in the United States as of 2022. However, the number of licensed practical nurses, LPNs, has declined by over 9% between 2018 and 2022. And the National Center for Health Workforce Analysis projects a 9% shortage of RNs nationwide and a 14% shortage in the non-metropolitan areas by 2036. So we're seeing a decline in nursing, and we're seeing that those who work in the field, over 2/3, are thinking about leaving the field within the next 3 years. This is going to be a significant impact to our healthcare system. And we know that the demand for LPNs, for example, is projected to grow faster than supply between 2021 and 2036, resulting in a projected shortage of 99,070 LPN full-time equivalent workers. That's a 12% shortage by 2036. These are the effects of occupational burnout on the healthcare system. In November of 2023, approximately 102 million people in the United States are living in a primary care health professional shortage area, or HPSA, exacerbated by the bleeding we have of healthcare staff due to occupational burnout in part. 77 million people live in a dental health professional shortage area, and 167 million people, almost half of the country, live in a mental health professional shortage area. The maldistribution of healthcare workforce results in severe shortages in our rural communities. We each know this is true. Ms. Thomas says, I left my last job due to burnout and no help from management. Thank you for sharing. I know that's a very sensitive topic for you, Ms. Thomas. High stress and burnout have long been issues in healthcare. We know this, and Ms. Thomas's experience is no different. The COVID-19 pandemic further exacerbated the issue for frontline workers as you all experience longer hours, exhaustion, increased exposure to death and suffering, and fear for your own health and safety. A survey of more than 20,000 U.S. healthcare workers between May and October in 2020 during the pandemic found high levels of burnout across a range of professions. 49%, half of respondents reported feelings of burnout, while 43% reported feeling overworked. 45% of RNs and 45% of LPNs experienced feelings of burnout at least a few times a week during 2022. A few times a week during 2022, half. So, one study found during the first wave of COVID in the US, one study found that over 25% of the social workers surveyed met the diagnostic criteria for PTSD. That's 5 times the national average. 5 times the national average of social workers met the diagnostic criteria for PTSD during the first wave of COVID. Over 2/3 of those surveyed registered nurses have feelings of burnout on most days. On most days, feel burned out. 37% strongly agreed, and 31% somewhat agreed that they experience burnout. The percentage of nurses feeling emotionally drained due to their job rose from 62% in 2021 during the height of the pandemic to 77% in 2023 as the pandemic waned. So the number is going up. 70% worry that their job is affecting their health. Do you have that worry? Do you worry that your job and your level of exhaustion and burnout is affecting your health? 58% of those surveyed felt misunderstood or underappreciated at work. These are feelings that lead to burnout. Burnout, in fact, is now an official medical diagnosis, according to the World Health Organization and the ICD-11, which the WHO informs. So, what are the symptoms then of burnout? Do you know? Perhaps you can list some of your own if you feel so courageous to share your experience with us. And I'm sorry, I've misspelled symptoms here. Excuse me. What are the symptoms of burnout? What are the symptoms? Miss Tony says irritability, mood swings, being sensitive. All correct. Crying, irritability, fatigue, poor productivity. All good answers and all true. Thank you all for speaking today. I appreciate it when you interact with us. It makes me tension in the body. That's a great one. Lethargy and blah, says Miss Hurd. I love that. Blah is right. Well, burnout, we know, is a type of stress, and we know that it's linked to work. It includes being worn out physically and or emotionally, and it will often involve feeling useless and powerless and empty. And burnout can raise the risk of depression. Depression and burnout are different, and they need different treatments, but burnout can be further exacerbated by leading to depression. We also know that certain personality traits may affect the risk of burnout, and that burnout, as we've said, and each of you have expertly said so far, burnout can affect our physical and our mental health. So, to find out if you might be having or experiencing some elements of job burnout, we can answer these questions, which are the symptoms of job burnout. So, for example, do you question the value of your work? Do you drag yourself to work and have trouble getting started in the morning or when you start your shift? Do you feel removed from work and removed from the people you work with? Do you feel alone at work? Have you lost patience with your coworkers or clients? Have you lost patience? Do you lack the energy you feel to do your job as well as you would like to do it? Do you find it hard to focus while at work? Do you feel little satisfaction from what you achieve each day, what you get done? Do you feel let down by your job? Loss of patience for certain, says Miss Hurd. Do you ever doubt your skills and abilities? Are you using food, drugs, or alcohol to feel better or to numb how you feel? Have your sleep habits changed? Or are you having headaches or stomach or bowel problems or other physical complaints with no known cause? If you can answer yes to these questions, you are experiencing the symptoms of job burnout and may be experiencing job burnout itself. The risk factors for job burnout is having a heavy workload, which I'm sure many of you can attest to having, and working long hours. Struggling with work-life balance is a risk factor for job burnout. Working in a helping profession like each of you in healthcare, which involves a lot of giving of yourself to others, but not being replenished by them and giving back to you, and feeling that you have very little or no control over the work that you do is a risk factor for you developing job burnout. Now, the cost of that burnout on you can make your problems worse. So, if you do nothing about the above, you might feel drained. You might feel not able to cope. You might be unable to sleep. You might feel sad. You might feel angry. You might feel irritable, or you may just not care. You may be using more alcohol or food or other substances. You may develop heart disease, high blood pressure, or type 2 diabetes, as we mentioned earlier, and you will be more likely to get sick. What causes burnout, y'all? You've been so good with your answers today, and I'll ask you this question. Being in the wrong field, says Miss Tony. I think that's an excellent answer, Miss Tony, and so true. What causes burnout? What causes burnout? Being in the wrong field is certainly one element that causes burnout. Are there others? Not paying attention to my needs. 2-day weekends, laugh out loud, says Miss Malone. And yes, this is a Monday, is it not? Lack of work-life balance, says Miss Fink. Having a lot of compassion, I believe is what Miss Elder meant to say. Lack of appreciation by leadership, says Miss Brown. Miss Kuhn says unrealistic expectations of the workload. I wonder how many of you feel that your workload has unrealistic expectations. I expect quite a few of you do. Well, burnout is caused by a wide variety of factors, and these are often related to the work environment, not the job itself, or personal circumstances. But here are some of the common causes. Simply overworked, says Miss McCraney, and Miss Taylor says poor boundaries. Heavy workloads, consistently high demands, and long hours can lead to physical and mental exhaustion. There's no surprise there. Lack of control, feeling like you have little say in decisions that affect your job, or lacking the autonomy you feel that will allow you to do your job most correctly, can contribute to burnout. Having an insufficient reward system, so if you're putting effort into your work that you do not feel is being matched by adequate rewards, whether these are financial or emotional, it can lead to feelings of burnout. Poor work-life balance, as some of you stated, struggling to balance your work with your personal life can increase your stress in all facets and lead to burnout. A lack of community, as we stated, if you feel isolated or unsupported, as one of you stated earlier, by your colleagues, this can cause and exacerbate feelings of burnout. If you feel that you are subject to unfair treatment or inequity in the workplace, this can contribute to burnout. And if there are value mismatches, which is another way of saying you're in the wrong field when your personal values don't align with those of the organization, it can lead to your dissatisfaction and cause burnout. So, lack of control, feeling like you lack autonomy, feeling like you lack access to the resources that you need to properly do your job, and feeling that you lack a say in the decisions that impact your professional life take a toll on your well being. In order to counteract this, we need to learn to establish better boundaries and not respond to messages 24/7. So just because you have a device on your person by which you can be contacted by anyone at any time of the day or night does not mean that you are honor bound to respond to those requests of your time. In fact, you can put your phone aside. Now, you have to have agreement that certain priorities will remain constant, but everything is not a priority. And you need to ask. Now, the answer I say to my children is always no if you don't ask the question. So ask for more resources from those you work with. Ask for what you need to see if this can counteract your perceived lack of control. Reward. So if the extrinsic, meaning money, and intrinsic, meaning your personal satisfaction, rewards for your job don't match the amount of effort and time that you are putting into your job, you are likely to feel like your investment of time and effort is not worth the payoff that your job is providing you. So I say, look within and determine exactly what you need to feel properly appreciated. For example, perhaps you need a raise, perhaps you need a promotion. Ms. Hurd says, yes, started a boundary of only responding to email and text during my stated business hours and set up a buffer day. So sticking up to a 4-day work week. That's excellent, Ms. Hurd. That's excellent. You may feel that you need more positive feedback and FaceTime with your boss. Again, ask for this. Take advantage of the rewards you've already accrued, such as Ms. Hurd enabling herself to work a 4-day work week. In your case, it might be taking some comp time that you've earned when you were working a particularly busy schedule earlier in the year at the office. Take that time now and replenish and recharge yourself and experiment to see which of the rewards would make you feel that what you're doing is worth it and whether there's an opportunity to receive more of these type rewards within your current work environment. And if not, you may join the 67% of those who state they'll look for a new job within the next 3 years. Community. Who do you work around? Now, some of you may work like I do independently, so there is no community necessarily within your workforce. But how supportive and trusting are the relationships that you do have? You know, it's like your family in a sense. You can't choose your colleagues and clients, just like you can't choose your family, but you can improve the dynamic of each of these. Do some little things like ask how others are feeling and how their day is going, and really listen and really respond and support the person with whom you're speaking. or send an email to someone you work with just to let them know how much you appreciate them or appreciated something they did for you or for a client today, or choosing to communicate something that's difficult with a colleague, but doing so in a respectful and non judgmental manner. Everyone wants to be told if they have food in their teeth. And if you do it in the loving and compassionate and honorable way, then you can have a discussion with those at work who maybe are falling short in your eyes, and which is leading to your sense of burnout and overwork. Burnout, just so you know, can be contagious. So if you elevate yourself individually, you can elevate the morale and the standing of burnout within the group that you work. Fairness. Do you feel that you are fairly acknowledged for your contributions? Or do other individuals get praised while your work goes unnoticed? This is a sure sign that you are becoming and will become, if you're not already, burned out. Does someone else, for example, get a regular extension on their work product while you don't, or they get access to additional resources while you don't? If you feel this lack of fairness, again, start by speaking up and asking for what you need and want. Sometimes individuals are unaware of their biases or won't take action until you ask for what you want. So ask for what you want. Request to be mentioned or to give a presentation or ask for additional time or additional resources or for whatever else you feel will be a just reward for the time you've spent at work. If you're experiencing a values mismatch, if your company does not value something that you value highly, then your motivation to work hard for that company and persevere can significantly drop. Ideals and motivations tend to be deeply ingrained not only in you as an individual, but in the organization to which you've tied your rope. So, ideals and motivations are deeply ingrained. So, think carefully about how important it is for you to match your values with those of the organization, and ask yourself, how does my boss, how does my team, how does my organization make decisions? And how do they invest resources? Do I feel good about those underlying motivations, and do they seem open to change? Again, if they seem open to change, ask for what you want. If you have a values mismatch and things are not going to change, you may join the legion of folks who are going to change jobs, the 67%. Workload. When your workload matches your capacity, you can get your work done. Everyone knows this. You can have opportunities then for rest and recovery, and you can find time or make time for greater professional growth and development when your workload matches your capacity. But when you feel chronically overloaded, the opportunities to restore balance, rest, and recovery don't exist. So, to address the stress of your workload, assess how well you're doing in these key areas: planning your workload. How adequately do you plan what you can do and get done? Prioritizing your work, delegating tasks, saying no, and letting go of perfectionism. No one of us is perfect, and yet many of us strive for perfection and are upset when we don't meet this impossible mark, or when those around us don't meet this impossible mark. And we have to let go of this impossible mark. It is unachievable. Let go of perfectionism. Saying no is empowering, says Ms. Hurd, and I would wholeheartedly agree. For many individuals, especially those who are people pleasing, saying no is empowering, and some proactive effort on reducing your workload can significantly reduce your feelings of burnout, and provide you the space you need to rest and recharge. Well, y'all, is there a tool to assess burnout? Is anyone familiar with a tool to assess burnout? Is there a tool to assess burnout? Other than the questions we've asked and the symptoms and risk factors we've looked at, yes, the compassion scale, says Miss Tony. That is one. The other is the Maslow burnout inventory. So we've discussed, and you all have certainly hit upon, that the COVID-19 pandemic aggravated the burnout that we're feeling and aggravated related forms of workplace distress across many industries, but most particularly hitting those of us in healthcare. COVID led more organizations to become more aware of burnout and more concerned about what to do about it. The Maslow Burnout Inventory, or MBI, was first published way back in 1981, and it was the first scientifically developed measure of burnout, the Maslow Burnout Inventory. It aligns with the World Health Organization's 2019 definition of burnout as a legitimate occupational experience. And it measures feelings of energy depletion or exhaustion, increased mental distance from one's job, or feelings of negativism or cynicism related to one's job, and reduced professional efficacy. The Maslow Burnout Inventory yields 3 scores for each respondent: exhaustion, cynicism, and professional efficacy. And these are on a continuum of frequency scores from the more positive to the more negative. A profile of burnout is indicated when there are more negative scores on all 3 of these dimensions: exhaustion, cynicism, and professional efficacy. Burnout, someone that is said to be burned out, according to the Maslow Burnout Inventory, has negative scores on exhaustion, cynicism, and professional efficacy. Someone who is considered overextended but not burned out has a strong negative score on exhaustion only. This is someone whose workload doesn't match their capacity. Someone who's considered to be ineffective by the Maslow Burnout Inventory has a strong negative score on professional efficacy only. Someone who is disengaged, according to the MBI, is someone who has a strong negative score on cynicism only. And someone who is said to be engaged, according to the Maslow Burnout Inventory, has strong positive scores on exhaustion, cynicism, and professional efficacy. And just know that if your organization brings on the MBI, that the non-confidential use of MBI scores within an organization is considered to be unethical. The MBI yields 3 scores for each of these categories: exhaustion, cynicism, and professional efficacy. And the continuum of frequency scores from more positive to more negative. Oh, I've already been through this. Excuse me, y'all. I've got myself turned around here. The Maslow Burnout Inventory addresses 3 scales: emotional exhaustion, as we've discussed, which measures feelings of being emotionally overextended and exhausted by one's work; depersonalization, which measures an unfeeling and impersonal response towards patients; and personal accomplishment, which measures feelings of competence and successful achievement in one's work. In fact, evidence from the Maslach burnout inventory suggests that only about 10 to 15% of employees fit the true burnout profile, whereas the engagement profile appears twice as often. Around 30% of those taking the MBI are said to be engaged, so they have strong positive scores on cynicism and uh, work life balance. Over half of employees actually are not burned out, but they are perhaps on their pathway to burnout. The overextended group, according to the MBI, has one key problem, which is their workload, high demands and low resources, as we stated, whereas the disengaged or ineffective groups seem to have other problems, including fairness in the workplace or social rewards and recognition. Well, what can you do about burnout? I know saying no certainly is one thing we can do. Practice self care, says Miss Tony. What can you do about burnout? Find another job, says Miss Williams. Speak up, says Miss Tony. All of these are valid. Finding another job might be one, but we're trying to avoid that if we can. Handling job burnout. Schedule time to yourself, meditate, exercise, read, walk. You can use EPA. Yes, you can. Own it and make positive changes, says Ms. Hurd. Well, burnout often involves things in our workplace that we cannot control. And even if we ask for help, we may not get it. There are ways, however, to control how we cope with the stress involved with our work. To get started with this, let's look at our options. Talk to our boss again about our concerns. Maybe you can work together with your boss to make changes or solve problems, and then set realistic goals for what must get done in order to avoid burnout, and then find out what can wait. If things at work are not likely to change, then you might want to look for a job that would be a better fit for you, and seek support. Ask your coworkers, ask your friends, your loved ones for support. Talking to others can help us cope. Feeling like we belong to our workplace and our workplace environment will protect against burnout. And if your job offers an employee assistance program, as Ms. Siggers had said above, then look for those services offered. You can try a relaxing activity, as someone said earlier. Examples might be yoga or meditation or Tai Chi, or something as simple as taking a few deep breaths a few times a day can help relieve tension. We have one or two CEUs about self care and meditation. You can find those on our YouTube channel. Get exercise. And we know this is true for really every indicator of wellness that we've discussed, from heart disease and on, from PTSD, from mental health issues. Exercise and sleep are two of the mainstays of having good, positive physical and mental health. Practicing mindfulness. Mindfulness is very simple. It's just being aware of what's going on both inside you and around you without judging or reacting, without finding there's something wrong with you, without being a perfectionist. The practice of mindfulness can help you deal with what's happening on the job around you. And then keeping an open mind as you think about options for how to combat this impending burnout, asking for help. There are ways to overcome. Ms. Tony says, learning to not internalize the responses of others. Very good idea. Healthcare worker burnout poses a serious threat to our country's health and well-being. As we've discussed, we have a bleeding out of nurses and social workers, and more to come. When are we, as a society and country, going to take care of all of the healthcare workers who have so bravely taken care of all of us during the pandemic. That's my question to you. Do you have questions or comments for me? That's the end of our CEU for today. If you're not already on our email list, email me at sbarnes, and that's BARNES, at carepatrol.com. I'll add you to the email list so that when our email goes out about September's live CEUs, you'll be sure to receive it. You must do the evaluation today to receive credit. That evaluation is, and I'll read it now for you. I'll also post it in the chat room for you. The link for today is https://www.surveymonkey.com/lowercase r/all uppercase letters and numbers, B as in boy, 5, 3, L, 3, F as in Frank, 2. So the link again is https://www.surveymonkey.com/lowercase r/all uppercase letters and numbers, B as in boy, 5, 3, L, 3, F as in Fox, 2. And the code word for today is burnout, which I will also put in the chat room for you. It's here on the screen in front of you. The code word is burnout. I've read to you now the evaluation link. Please do your evaluations by 8 o'clock tonight. If you are done, that would allow me to send out the certificates before the end of the day. Everyone who does an evaluation will receive a certificate, and nurses, we will be posting your hours for you. Thank you again for being with us today. Thank you for your referrals to Care Patrol, and thank you for everything that you do. We appreciate all that you do for us and for others, and we appreciate the fact that you've joined us today, and hope that is that this is a good use of your time. So we will end today now. If I can figure out how to do so. This is all changed with me. Here we go. Thank you for being here. Y'all have a great rest of your week.